Welcome to the Awakening Spirit channel. Imagine this. You find yourself alone, really alone, adrift in the quiet hum of a long drive. Miles just melt away and the familiar world starts to fade. But what happens when the road you're on leads not to a new destination, but to a reality that feels unmoored,
Yeah.
unsettlingly silent?
Right, a road trip that was supposed to be an escape becomes something else entirely, a journey really into the unknown where the ordinary just seems to dissolve into the impossible.
And we have this account, a desperate message sent out basically into the void. It speaks of a town swallowed by an endless night, a silence that almost screams and encounters that.
Well, they defy explanation.
Yeah, these messages are raw. You can feel the dread growing in them. They offer this glimpse into an experience that really blurs the line between what's real and what's, a nightmare.
So our mission here is to unpack this, to
Yeah.
try and understand the descent into this uncanny place. Okay, let's get into it. You're on a road trip, weeks into it apparently,
Yeah.
a deliberate effort to disconnect.
No contact, phone set to do not disturb. It really sounds like you are actively trying to create some space.
It does. And you have to wonder, what drives someone to seek that level of complete isolation? What's fascinating here, I think, is that deliberate severing of connections. The source material really emphasizes this desire for isolation, getting away from a life described, I think the phrase was, a dumpster fire.
Right.
And this initial choice, this active hunt for solitude, becomes a really crucial lens for looking at what happens next.
You think that desire might have shaped the experience somehow?
It's a question, isn't it? Could seeking that disconnection have in some way opened a door to,
Yeah.
well, to this?
And then there's this memory of a traffic cam, just a flash in the dark somewhere on some winding road. It's such a mundane detail, isn't it? Almost jarring when you think about what comes after. That's
Exactly.
a little anchor to normalcy before everything just starts to unravel. Why do you think that image sticks out?
Well, the traffic cam is like a marker, isn't it? A point of reference before that tired haze really sets in and time starts to get fuzzy. It highlights that stark contrast between the ordinary world, surveillance, roads, the usual stuff,
Yeah.
and the extraordinary, inexplicable events that are about to unfold. It really makes you ask, how fast can our anchors to reality just dissolve?
So eventually you find yourself on a road right by the ocean, no moon, no stars, just headlights cutting through absolute blackness. And you mentioned this feeling, this unease on those kinds of roads, that sort of childish idea that something unknown is lurking out there.
Right.
And here's where it gets really interesting. It seems that childish notion, maybe not so childish after all.
No.
Why do those primal fears resurface so strongly right then, do you think?
Well, this feels like classic foreshadowing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The narrator's own anxieties about the unknown, especially in isolated places.
Yeah.
They become the very fabric of their experience later on. The darkness isn't just lack of light anymore. It becomes a canvas for something genuinely other. What's really significant is how that pre-existing unease seems to find such fertile ground in this new environment.
Yeah.
It's almost like the external reality starts mirroring an internal state.
Then a town appears. Looks cozy enough at first glance, nestled there between a cliff and the ocean.
Right. Seems okay initially.
But that feeling doesn't last. The gas station, it's open, lights on, but totally deserted, no attendant.
Just empty.
And then you notice something really unsettling. The complete lack of any sound. No wind, no ocean noise, no crickets, nothing. Pure, dead silence.
That silence, that's the first major crack in reality, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
The absence of expected sounds, especially by the ocean, is just deeply, deeply wrong. It screams that something is fundamentally off.
Like sensory deprivation.
Exactly. It ramps up the isolation, the otherworldliness. Think how much we rely on ambient sound just to orient ourselves, to feel like things are normal.
Yeah.
Take that away, and you're left with this void, this huge question mark where reality should be.
And things escalate pretty quickly from there, don't they?
They really do.
You try to leave, head down the road, only to find it just ends abruptly at a cliff.
Just stops.
Then you turn back, thinking, okay, I'll go back the way I came. But the bridge you drove in on vanished. Just gone.
Wow.
Gone.
It's like the town is actively trapping you.
Yeah.
Any logical explanation, like, maybe it's highway robbery or something, that just dissolves instantly.
Yeah, the missing bridge is impossible. That's the turning point. It moves beyond just weirdness into a direct contradiction of physical reality. This is where the uncanny place really shows its hand.
Right.
The narrator's attempts to rationalize it just fall apart. Because how do you rationalize a missing bridge?
You can't.
This isn't just being lost anymore. It's like the fundamental rules have changed. Predictability, safety, gone.
So you explore the town, right? Finding house after house, empty, but weirdly fully furnished.
Yeah, like everyone just evaporated mid-sentence.
Exactly. And then there's the perpetual night. No sunrise, just endless darkness.
That's deeply disorienting. Isolating, too. Time itself seems to have just stopped cold. How does that constant darkness, that frozen moment, start to, erode your grip?
Well, the perpetual night reinforces that this isn't just some deserted town you stumble into. It suggests a fundamental shift in the natural order, which isolates the narrator even further from the familiar rhythms of the world. And the frozen time. It adds to that feeling of being trapped outside of normal reality. Without day and night, those natural anchors for our biology, our perception, they're gone, leaving this disorienting void.
And then the encounter by the car, this figure asking for help. But something is just deeply wrong. The voice is too perfect, almost like a recording repeated.
Uncanny.
And then the horrifying realization, this figure isn't walking, it's sliding, dangling from something unseen in the darkness.
Oh, God, dangling.
What does that do psychologically? Those subtle wrongnesses, the voice, the movement.
That's where it becomes true horror.
Oh,
The
this.
figure seems human, but isn't.
Yeah.
It taps right into that primal fear of the uncanny valley.
Right.
Those slight inconsistencies, the perfect voice, the unnatural sliding motion they build to this horrifying reveal that just shatters any sense of safety left. It's always the almost human that disturbs us the most, isn't it?
Yeah.
Those little deviations signaling something's fundamentally wrong under the surface.
And the description of its collapse, like a deflating balloon,
Yeah.
a wadded sleeve of skin, and leaving an arm on the roof of the car.
Nightmarish imagery.
Yeah.
Utterly
It
disturbing.
is. It's the stuff of nightmares. So you run, find refuge in a radio tower, and start sending these desperate messages out.
Into the void.
What compels someone in that situation that terrified to reach out, even when the chances of anyone hearing seem zero?
Well, the way the figure disintegrates is incredibly disturbing. It emphasizes how artificial, how empty it is, and the silent pursuit. It highlights the predatory nature of whatever inhabits this place. The radio tower becomes this symbol, doesn't it? A desperate attempt to reconnect. A tiny light in overwhelming darkness. That urge to communicate, to seek connection, even when utterly isolated. That feels like a fundamental human need, right down to the wire.
So you're trapped, supplies running low. Surrounded by this impossible reality, you went looking for silence, but found an emptiness that feels actively hostile. What does that contrast tell us? About solitude, maybe?
The irony is just stark, isn't it? The desire for isolation gets twisted into this terrifying extreme.
Yeah.
The silence sought for peace becomes this deafening, threatening void. It suggests that maybe true solitude isn't just being alone.
Right.
Maybe it needs some grounding in reality, some connection, even if not to people, to something, to stay healthy, not terrifying.
The silence of that town. It's like a void where even the ocean held its breath. The missing bridge, those empty houses, the perpetual night.
And that figure.
And then, that figure by the car. Just a chilling imitation of humanity dangling there in the dark.
It makes you wonder, what does it truly mean to find yourself isolated? Not just from people, but from the very fabric of reality itself. To seek silence, and instead find an emptiness that just consumes everything.
The message ends with a plea, doesn't it? A hope that somehow, across that impossible distance, someone might hear. The batteries fading, the darkness closing in.
This whole deep dive leaves us with a question, I think, for everyone listening. Have you ever felt truly alone, adrift, even when things around you seem familiar? And what might that silence, if you felt it, be trying to tell you?
Part 2 is coming tomorrow.